Some of the greatest levels in the Mario games are the ones that take place inside of a castle, a structure that contains some of the most creative enemies and of course some of the most dangerous obstacles ever introduced for the games, such as lava or spikes. There is a reason for this added challenge though. It's because you've reached the end of a world or at least closing in on it. They are a test of every skill you've learned throughout the world and more. For this video I decided to list my 10 favorite castle levels from the Mario series. I am using some rules for this list though. I'm only allowing one level per game for variety. I am allowing levels that have the setting take place inside or at least close to a castle. And I am including fortress and tower levels along with the regular castles. And with that being said, let's get started. For number 10, I chose the World 6 Final Castle from New Super Mario Bros. 2. New Super Mario Bros. 2 was your average 2D Mario title, however the final castle within it isn't average at all. Now there are two versions of this final castle, however I believe that the first one is far better than the second, which is encountered in World Star, or more well known as the Challenging World 9. That challenging aspect makes most of the levels in that world more difficult than the rest of the game, however as explained through this entry, the changes made to the original final castle from World 6 are not for the better. So what does this castle have that makes it so special? Well, there are a lot of good things about the final castle in New Super Mario Bros. 2. You enter the level faced with many of the classic Mario enemies and obstacles. There is nothing wrong with having classic elements in a level, and this castle uses them very well. It's in the style of a traditional New Super Mario Bros. Castle, and again, there isn't anything wrong with that. The first section may lack a lot of originality, albeit there is some with the burners being placed on ropes at points, which is pretty interesting. You have to remember that this was before the time of Super Mario Maker, where you constantly see the implementations of burners like this, so it does get some points for innovation there. But all in all, this first section is very fun and enjoyable to go through. After going through a door, you will find more burners, which you have to navigate through on one of my favorite additions to the series, in the snake block. This is fun for what it is, however it is a very short segment of the overall level, and it's just there to provide a creative way for you to retrieve your second star coin. The final sections of this level are very creative as well. You've battled the Koopalings throughout your journey, and it all leads to them going against you once more in the main mode of transportation for evil beings in the Mario universe, the Koopa Clown Car. It now seems to have this ability to shine a light on everything, and if Mario isn't covered by a wall, he will be stunned, but no damage will be taken. Why is this threatening? Well, the designers brilliantly included these conveyor belts here in the level, so if Mario were to get stunned, he would fall on the conveyor belt and be helpless as it moves slowly towards the lava, or Mario will die and have to start the section again. This is well implemented and very enjoyable to go through, only when the previously mentioned thing doesn't happen. The final boss in the castle is okay. It features you climbing up the falling platforms while avoiding Bowser's flame balls. It's an interesting idea, just not the greatest that we've come to see from the Mario games. But now I answer the question, why is this castle better than the one in the Star World? Well, in that one you begin with that Koopa Clown Car fight, and there isn't a big prelude to those events. There are other changes made that I don't think benefit the level overall, like putting in tons of grinders in place of other things. The World Star version might be a bit more challenging, but it's very simply just not as fun as the original, which I really like, and that's why it got a spot on this list. For number 9, I chose the World 5 Fortress from New Super Mario Bros. DS. New Super Mario Bros. Was the series' return to the 2D platformer genre, and this particular installment on Nintendo DS was the highest selling game on the system, meaning a lot of you must have experienced the worlds that this game offered. Now, not to hate on this game or anything, but the overall selection of castle levels within it aren't the greatest by any means, although there is one that shines out from the rest and was extremely innovative at the time. This is the World 5 Tower, where the main concept of the level is for Mario to stand on a platform that slowly raises up higher. Unlike most other towers in the game, this one feels like you're constantly progressing higher up in a massive fortress. It feels like it takes a long time to get to the top, and this is due in part to the challenge within the level. While not the most difficult Mario level ever, this one, especially for a new Super Mario Bros. Title, is very difficult. Riding this platform isn't all fun and games as spike balls are launched out of the side of the tower at you and you have to avoid them as there isn't a good method of destroying them. This can be especially challenging at points where there are multiple spike balls rolling along the platform at once. Enemies fall onto the platform too, and the dry bones can be difficult until the spike balls come along. You see, because you cannot permanently defeat a dry bones, you actually end up relying on these spike balls to destroy them for good. I love this idea. The spike balls are your enemy but also your friend at the same time because they end up destroying the other foes which you encounter throughout the level. Near the end, a massive spike ball will be launched at you, and if you can avoid it, you will fight Bowser Jr. for the 500th time. While the same Bowser Jr. fights over and over get repetitive and drag down the gameplay, this one is unique in the fact that it takes place on ice. The slippery ice makes it difficult for our favorite plumber to jump on the head of Bowser Jr. to defeat him. I'm not going to oversell this fight though. It still is pretty basic, although I do appreciate the thought of ice adding in there for a slight variety and to remain faithful to the overall theme of the world, which is winter and the cold. While not the greatest castle level of all time, I still thoroughly enjoyed playing through this one. It was an innovative level idea at the time, inspiring several similar levels to it to be created out of inspiration from it in the sequel New Super Mario Bros. Games. The World 3 Tower in the Wii game contains a section that's almost identical to it. However, there's just something about this one that makes it better than all the other versions that followed. A gem in an otherwise average Mario title has certainly earned its spot on this list. For number 8, I chose World Castle Level 3 Red Hot Run Super Mario 3D World. Mario 3D World is yet another linear 3D entry in the Mario series, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The 2D Mario titles are all designed in a linear fashion, having the player go from one level to the next, and having two 3D titles in the series that embrace this style of gameplay is a unique idea. So out of all the levels that are in 3D World, which Castle one is the best? In my opinion, it's a Red Hot Run. So the thing with 3D World is that it has some great levels with lava and other evil enemies within them, however a lot of the best ones aren't technically castle levels. This one is a castle level, however, and it is a ton of fun. This is different than most castle levels in many ways, which I'll go over now. First, this is a straight path on which you have to run. You are given a 100-second time limit, and there are not many points where you can stop in this rush of an experience because it's cluttered with boost pads. Yes, everywhere there are pads which shoot you even faster throughout the level, and it can get very chaotic at points. This is very different from the other castle levels that I'm talking about in this video, as most are about overcoming many obstacles at your own pace and having the level take a long time to complete. Definitely not the case here. In the Red Hot Run, you will be running and not stopping. Another way that this is different than most castle levels is because of the setting in which it takes place. Every other level in this video either takes place inside a castle or fortress, however this one takes place outside of the castle. You can visibly tell that the castle level is outdoors. A volcano is in the distance, and the walls of the castle are on the sides of your view. But that is in the beginning. You'd be a fool to pay attention to the small details in the middle of your sprint throughout the level. A nice touch which you don't really get the opportunity to completely appreciate. What makes this level difficult? Well, along with the pace, there's the combination of other factors. The first of which is the narrowness of the level. Don't even think for a second that you can take a major misstep in this level because you will die. Falling off is very easy to do here, especially if you're trying to get all three of the green stars. Spikes are placed everywhere in this level as obstacles for you to avoid. You have to jump over some and simply maneuver around others, but it's all fun and enjoyable. Donut blocks that are in this level ensure that you don't stop for too long or you will fall into the merciless lava below. And there are many gaps to keep you jumping even more. In conclusion, the Red Hot Run may be a bit different, but it is a high intensity sprint to the finish, and it's a great castle level for that. For number 7, I chose King Bowser's Castle Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. The beloved sequel to Super Mario World is Yoshi's Island, a game where you play as the lovable green dinosaur himself. In this game there are many great levels, but in my opinion the best castle one is the final. King Bowser's Castle is the final level of the game, and it certainly does not disappoint. The beginning of it is pretty interesting, as you'll be the helicopter crossing a gap outside of the castle while avoiding the skeleton goonies as well as Kamek, who is one of the reoccurring villains in the game. It's a decent section, but definitely not the best in the level. Oh yes, we will get to that best section later on. Once you get inside of the castle, there's a roulette wheel containing numbers of doors that you could travel through. All 4 doors lead to the final room, so I'll go over all 4. Door number 1 is an area filled with lava and spike balls. Some of these spike balls rotate around like those commonly seen throughout the Mario series, but others are simply dropped by the Shy Guys, and those can shock you if you're not expecting them to be dropped at a certain point. There are falling platforms that dip into the lava, causing you to have to be cautious when near them in order to avoid imminent death. There's also an area where you have a limited amount of time to cross a platform, and a dangerous one that tilts back and forth. On to door number 2, which contains an area that is highly populated with Shy Guy species. A ton of them are included here, which you can see on the screen right now. It isn't the most challenging area overall, but it is still very fun to go through. In order to get to the final room from this one, you have to defeat this stupid blob thing that holds the key to the door. Door number 3 contains an auto-scrolling segment that has you jumping over gaps as Tap Tap the Golden chases after you. Yoshi's able to fire his eggs at it to send it backward a bit, however, a little challenge is provided because of the automatically scrolling nature of the level. After some of this, you'll reach a warp pipe that'll take you to the final room. Door number 4 is by far the easiest of the bunch. It's filled with coins and 2 Shy Guys that give you 1-ups. You'll be very lucky to get this one from the roulette, as the only thing that can kill you are a couple of gusties within the level. But now we get to the coup de grace, the best part of the level. No matter what door you went through, it is topped by the fight that follows. No, not this one. The one with the giant baby Bowser who stomps menacingly towards you. Boulders and his flames are your threats here, and the way to defeat him is to hit him 7 times with the giant red eggs that fall before you. This boss fight is just so grand in scope and feels awesome to play. It makes this level that much better, which is why it made the list. For number 6, I chose Superstar Road 8 Pendulum Castle New Super Mario Bros. U. New Super Mario Bros. Games are generally not thought of as very difficult ones. However, they are known to throw a few nasty ones in here and there to keep you on your toes. New Super Mario Bros. U is no exception to this. In World 9, there is one level that has devastated players. Left them to crawl into a corner in their basement and curl up into a blanket as they weep about the many deaths that they've suffered in the game. World 9, Level 8 is one of the hardest castles in the entire series. This level is also known as Pendulum Castle. A pendulum refers to an object that can be swung back and forth from a fixed point, and there couldn't be a better word to use in the title of this one. From that title, you could probably instantly tell that it'll be filled with spike balls, one of the most dangerous obstacles in the Mario games. In fact, everything in this level is dangerous. There are bony beetles in this level as well, which provide a nice contrast to the spike balls in terms of your obstacles, and don't even think about stopping for a break, as the floor in this level is made out of donut blocks, and when you stand on them they will begin to fall, so you always have to be prepared for anything. The way that everything is implemented makes it challenging for the player. What can make this level even harder is if you're looking to get all 3 star coins, which, if you've made it to World 9, you'll probably be looking to get. While the first is obtained simply by falling a bit in the donut blocks, the next is a bit more difficult. It's covered by spike balls, and the only way to get to it is to become invincible with a star power-up. How you get it is by going to the other side of the room, which, let me tell you, is not an easy task. But then you can go and get the coin. The last one is gotten in an interesting section, which provides elements of the levels put to the ultimate test as you push the button to make the red blocks appear, and you will wall jump under a limited time to retrieve the coin. I just love how this level is made. It's a fairly short one, all things considered, but that doesn't take away from what makes it great. While I put others on this list for their sense of adventure or purely because of how fun they are, this one is on this list because of the challenge factor, which is seriously lacking in modern Mario titles. For number 5, I chose Ludwigs Castle from Super Mario World. Out of all the Mario games, there's none that I see get more praise than that of Super Mario World, and I understand why this is the case. It's a brilliant Mario platform, and obviously it has some great levels within it. But what do I think is the greatest castle level in this highly acclaimed Mario title? This one is Ludwigs Castle. This castle embraces the classic gameplay that makes Mario World the great game that we love to still play to this day. The first room has you go through a straight path and then pass over bony beetles and rotating spike balls. This section is fun to go through and can get a bit challenging at times. You can rush through it at times, but you also should take things slow and watch your every move carefully. To be honest, I had to use that approach when playing through this because it can honestly get really difficult crossing over the bony beetle and maneuvering around the spike balls at the same time. In this section, it has a ton of them all rotating at once, and yes, I've died very many times in this. Before you reach the door to the next room, there's actually a secret that you could find to get some extra lives, which is always fun. It never hurts to get some extra lives for a castle level, especially one like this. The next room features one of the most painful things to deal with in Mario levels. Next to rising lava, a descending roof. This one happens to be covered by spikes, and you must reach the switch to turn it off before it goes down so low that it'll be able to crush you. Once the switch is turned off, you will be safe as the roof will rise upwards. Getting the switch isn't the easiest endeavor though, as you will have to jump over many platforms with lava bubbles leaping out of them at every second. The next room has you climbing on a fence. This is one of my favorite mechanics from Mario World, so I'm glad that it was implemented into what was already a great castle prior to this section. I was so happy to see the fences reappear in New Super Mario Bros. Games too. On these fences, you battle the red and green Koopa Troopas, and to give you a big reason not to let go of the fence, many different sections of spikes are placed below you. After you go through this, you will then proceed to the boss battle of this castle, which, as I mentioned before, is Ludwig von Koopa. Now, while I love Ludwig, if there is one low point to this castle, it would have to be this boss battle. There isn't much special about it at all. It's just a basic hit him 3 times, and every time you hit him, he'll go into his shell and move around a little bit. Ludwig does jump awkwardly around, as you can see on the screen right now, but that's the only unique aspect of this fight. All things considered, this is a very well made castle, and while there are many others from Mario World that I was considering, this was ultimately the choice that I had to make. For number 4, I chose World 7 Fortress 2 Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario Bros. 3 was a fantastic installment in the Mario series, and one of the reasons for that is the slight unique additions to the gameplay. The beauty of Mario 3 is that it remains faithful to the main Mario gameplay while making small tweaks that spice up the gameplay a little bit. Some of those tweaks include the levels being shorter in length overall, and because of that, more are able to be included in worlds. And another is the inclusion of airships as world final levels instead of castles. While I obviously love the castle levels in Mario games, it is nice to see a change of pace here. That's not to say that there aren't any great castle levels in Mario 3 though, far from it in fact. The fortresses in Mario 3 are quick experiences that offer a much larger challenge than the Mario titles of today. One challenging fortress in the game is the second one in World 7. This is one of the best castle levels in the entire Mario series, and certainly the best one for Mario 3 in my opinion. The final castle came close for this spot, however just could not beat out this level. But what makes it so special? Well, I just mentioned that it was challenging, but that's not necessarily what makes a great Mario level, at least in this circumstance. There are certainly some great ones on the easier side that have places on this list. A harder level is more enjoyable for me though. I like the feeling of overcoming a massive challenge in a video game. It feels rewarding and is a good feeling to have when you're playing a castle level. However, the challenging aspects of the stage are only one of the many factors. There are several others that I like to take into account here, such as the fantastic platforming and enemy placement that there are in multiple sections of this level to add some more gameplay variety, and that the design of this level matches those of the world that it takes place in. I very much enjoy that part of the world system in Mario games. The levels all feel different yet the same because they're part of the same theme of the world. This theme is spread amongst the levels in the world, and it certainly adds to the charm. What is the theme of World 7? Well, if you've played Mario 3, you will most definitely remember the Pipe Land, and in this level, there are piranha plants coming out of pipes. What a surprise. This isn't just a generic scenario including the piranha plants either, rather they are placed in some very tough to face situations. The first portion of the level includes this, and I have to admit, it can be brutal at times. You're almost guaranteed to get hit when you come into this level, so you better have stocked up on your items. The next room in this level is much shorter but very fun to go through. It requires you to slide underneath walls while dodging thwomps and these spinning waffle things. It all leads to a boom boom fight, which is very generic and lacking in any sort of depth, but I found this level so good in itself that a boring mini-boss isn't going to ruin the experience. This is the primary example of a superb execution of a fortress level. For number 3, I chose World 8-4, Super Mario Bros. There's always something special about the first in a series of games. It's what sets the tone and inspires the rest. It's what they have to be built on. Sometimes this works and sometimes this fails, but one thing that has been very difficult to beat was the original Final Castle. The first of many 2D platformers to follow was Super Mario Bros. And throughout this game, the story, if you want to call it that, was Mario fighting imposter versions of Bowser in each world's castles. This is where the famous line, "Your princess is in another castle," comes from. Every time you fought Bowser, you found out that he was just another enemy in disguise. But now, you finally made it to the real Bowser, the most famous video game villain of all time who kidnapped a beloved princess. But in order to get to him, you must go through what I consider to be an absolutely incredible castle level. Like I said, there's something special about the original, and the original Mario Final level does not disappoint. Throughout this level, you encounter almost every enemy that you fought during your journey. I love this idea because every skill you've learned to deal with these pesky foes is now put to the test. It's like a final exam for your Mario playing abilities. Not only are all enemies found, but all level types too. What I mean by that is not only do you have to go through this level on land, but there's also an underwater section within it. You'll find bloopers in those irritating spinning fire bars here, and trust me, you will lose a few lives on this section. It's pretty difficult. On the subject of difficulty, I like the amount of challenge that this level has. Not being too hard, but at the same time not giving you too many opportunities to just casually stroll through it. This is the Final Castle, and you better be prepared to try your best. After the bulk of the level is done, you cannot forget about King Koopa himself. Say what you want about this boss fight, it may not be as flashy or even as challenging as some of the ones that followed it, but it inspired the evolution of these fights. Every Bowser battle builds off of this one. Well, except for New Super Mario Bros. DS, that was just bad. All in all, I really like this castle though. Not just because it laid the groundwork for others to come, but also because of the unique ways it implemented the enemies and that it included almost every type of obstacle that you encounter throughout your journey to truly see if you could defeat Bowser. For number 2, I chose World 8 Castle 2 Super Mario 3D Land. Something that I like about Mario games is when they reward you for doing something extra. Something not necessarily required for you to beat the game, however, if you do the selected task, you will get to participate in an experience that's exclusive for completionists like yourself. This is why I like star coins in the newer Mario titles. Yeah, they seem unimportant at first glance, but after you beat World 8 and then realize that the extra special world is only available once you collect every star coin, you realize what you're missing out on. Super Mario 3D Land is a game that's slightly different than that mentality though. The idea with 3D Land is you actually need to collect a certain amount of star coins to unlock certain levels to progress through the main story of the game. This is a Mario title which teases you with a Bowser Castle that isn't the real one. A cliche at this point, I get that, but you cannot deny that the second castle you have to take on is one heck of an experience. You are rewarded by collecting the star medals throughout your journey, as the level requires a minimum of 100 of them to unlock it. Yeah, the first time I went through this game, I thought I could get away with just skipping the medals, but nope! You have to be a bit brave in this entry in the series and collect as many of these babies as you can, even if you have to risk your life to get them. Your reward for doing this is one of the greatest castle levels in all of the Mario games. You are thrusted onto what has been known as the Spine Coaster, which bears a striking resemblance to Dry Bowser. On this epic roller coaster, you must avoid the lava and fire bars that will be coming towards you at every angle. After going through all of the challenges that are placed in front of you, Mario greets Toad to give him a 1-up. They know that he probably won't make it through what he's about to do. One of the all-time great battles with Bowser commences after our hero is shot out of a cannon. This is a fight with our favorite turtle like no other. A 3D environment in which you will try to get to the end to save the princess, but Bowser follows you through the whole experience. There are many phases within this fight. Bowser actually ends up hurling barrels at Mario in a similar fashion to the mighty monkey himself, Donkey Kong. I love little references like this. It gives you a slight taste of previous experiences within the series and just adds to the charm of this castle. After completing a brilliantly created platforming section, the fight, and one of the greatest castles in all the Mario series has concluded. It isn't just the fight or the prelude that makes this one great, it's how they mesh together. How this whole level feels like it's one big experience rather than sections just stitched together. It's a great way to end the main story of 3D Land. And for the number 1 spot, I chose the World 8 Castle, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. When you talk about a great Mario level, one of the games which immediately comes to mind is New Super Mario Bros. Wii. One of the best selling entries in the Mario series is notorious for having plenty of great levels to play through inside of it. These include great levels of all types, but the greatest castle level in the game is also the greatest in the entire Mario series. This is the final castle in World 8. World 8 is very notable for having great castle levels in the Mario series, and at the end of Mario Wii, after defeating Bowser Jr. for the final time in his airship, you then proceed to the final castle, and it is fantastic. One of the many aspects about this final castle that I love is the gameplay variety within it. It puts all of the types of challenges that you faced in the past to the test in several different sections. The first section is one based on platforming, what this title focuses on. Basic 2D platforming elements that make the Mario series what it is turned up to 11. Potaboos and fire bars are the two main obstacles that you'll encounter in this first room, and they're all implemented very well in it. When you get to the next room, you can immediately tell that it's very unique. Quite often in Mario games, you'll see levels with rising lava, but not many with lowering lava. You have to constantly jump on different platforms that will fall in order to avoid touching the lava. It's a challenge different from anything I've seen, and that's a nice contrast from the last room. That one tested skills you've learned, whereas this one provides a new type of challenge. After those, you proceed to the next room, where you enter a big green door and then proceed to fight the big green Koopa himself, Bowser. This fight is very basic, where you just have to avoid his fireballs and stomp on the switch to defeat him. After that though, you are not finished. What follows is one of the most memorable sequences in the entire Mario series. Kamek comes and revives Bowser, only now he is freaking huge. Then you must avoid the giant fireballs while going in their direction because you need them to blow up the walls to get away from this abomination. This is a wonderfully made platforming section, one of the best in the entire Mario series in my opinion. Being completely honest, while the two sections that preceded are good, this level would not have made the list without the addition of what is widely considered to be the greatest Mario boss fight ever. Bowser is at his best here. He is not bozo like how he appears in certain iterations of the Mario series. He's threatening, evil, and scary. After making it to the end by getting through all of the sections and getting to use one of the greatest power-ups for one more time, then you get to reunite with the princess. What else could you want from a Mario Castle level? This has great platforming, level design, enemy implementation, and absolutely killer boss fight. This makes the final castle in New Super Mario Bros. Wii the greatest in the entire Mario series. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I put a lot of work into it, and I would really appreciate it if you leave a like. Be sure to subscribe because there's going to be more top 10s coming out very soon, and check out one of my others if you've not seen it already. I have two linked on the screen right now. Again, thank you so much for watching.